In case you didn't know, this is a part 2 to my first video on this weapon. Go and watch it if you haven't, and then come back and watch this one too. I promise you won't regret it. And also, you won't be missing the context for the first entire half of the run. Whatever. You know what a part 2 is. You can go do it. Good. But is this shield all it's made out to be? The short answer I can give is no. This shield doesn't have 100% physical block? Your job as a shield is to block damage, and you can't even do that. It's called the Pierce shield. Why can't it do full damage to blocking opponents? Most people who fought the Abyss Watchers have learned about the different reactions the Watchers can have to a blocked attack. A parrying dagger the Watcher has. Once we block one of those attacks, the Watcher will stun for a second and recoil back. Not even the damage the Watcher inflicts on us does enough to have us run out of Estus. Andre can upgrade us to +6, and our damage is starting to resemble what an early game weapon might inflict. It's just that we're in the mid game now. Dancer is our next boss, and what a return to form she is, resembling Vort in all the worst ways. The first thing that resembles Vort is that she can combo us. It's a bit unorthodox, a couple hand slaps wouldn't count as a combo in most fighting games, but if it works, I have to respect the method. Another thing that's similar to Vort is that she's pretty tanky for this point in the game. Nowhere near Yorm levels, but she's also harder than Yorm could muster. The last, and possibly worst thing that resembles Vort, is the fact that she gets much harder in Phase 2, particularly by just becoming quicker and more relentless. In Phase 1, there's quite a bit of downtime to heal, or rack on damage, or open YouTube and subscribe to your average spell, but in Phase 2, you're on edge the whole time. There's no chance to heal unless you claw and scrape for it. But unlike Vort, she can stagger easily, leading us to kill Dancer without trouble. That's the first boss on the 3-boss rush down. The next one is just a bit of a ways away, with an Estus shard and some chunks along the way. Oceiros is the guy we're running to, and what a guy he is. He's actually really cool. Well, except for his massive and stupid health bar, as well as some of his telegraphs. And well, I don't agree with some of those hitboxes. And well, yeah, this guy sucks actually. So the Untended Graves are up, and along with a couple more Titanite chunks, we have some demons to take care of. Not literal demons, mental ones. Champion Gundyr is what the first boss of our run should have been. This boss doesn't take much damage from our attacks, and is pretty oppressive when he gets going. He doesn't let you heal, he animation cancels on you, and is honestly just scary. We have a whole 13 flasks though, and I'll be damned if I make 13 mistakes on this boss. So with Gundyr 2.0 down, we grab our Coiled Sword Fragment and head over to Irithyll Dungeon. You guys remember those shortcuts we unlocked earlier? Well, here's why we unlocked them. Because now that we've killed Oceiros, we can use the Path of the Dragon emote and, fall asleep? Head to Archdragon Peak. Archdragon Peak seems to be the most lucrative in terms of Titanite. There are the last 3 Titanite chunks we need here, all by this bonfire. Also right after the bonfire is the Ancient Wyvern. And other than the Dark Souls 2 co-op boss runback we have to run through here, and totally using the Pierce shield here, 100% using it, we plunge the Ancient Wyvern for the end of this fight. And, well, okay, the rest of this area is insanely boring and it sucks. The only notable thing is this Titanite slab by a Havel Knight, and we use it to go back to Andre and upgrade our +10 weapon. And this is going to be our damage output for the rest of the run. 260 damage total, with a very slow and clunky animation. Hopefully this doesn't doom us once we get into the later DLCs. But right now, we're taking on the final boss of this area. The King of the Storm is more of a boss that's about trying to hit it, rather than hitting it many times. It's not the tankiest thing in the world, but he moves around quite a bit. He jumps behind me here, flies up in the air there, and is generally just kind of in a weird spot. When we do hit him, the damage is nice, but there's not a big chance of us taking multiple hits at once, unless he's extra vulnerable. The nice thing about this phase is that though we struggle to hit him, he also can't hit us very much, so we can run under and around him while we slowly work him down. And once his dragon is dead, we're ready to take on the Nameless King. The Nameless King, however, is a lot more tanky. That damage is discouraging. The fun part, though, is something that hasn't come up in too long. The poise damage completely staggers the Nameless King, and once we stagger him, we can get a couple hits in, not with counter damage, but the amount of free damage isn't anything to scoff at. And due to our lackluster damage, my main strategy is to not get greedy. Amazing insight, I know, but it's all I can think to do is just wait and punish the quickest way possible. Is he charging up a lightning bolt? Hit him just once. You wouldn't want to lose all your progress, right? This mindset is extremely useful. It gets us many staggers, leading to the end of our fight. Now, we're back at Lothric Castle, one last time. Lothric Castle is an area, alright. There's an undead bone shard here, but otherwise, it's really just a boring nothing area with a couple rooms to run through. On most runs, there'd at least be something, but here, there's not much because we already have a plus 10 weapon, and all our levels are pumped pretty high with all our min-maxing. So, with not much else to do, we unlock the shortcut that gives us quick access to the Dragonslayer Armour. The armor is a fellow shield enjoyer, and we'll be battling that the entire time. The armor is a boss that's not only difficult, but one that subverts your expectations. The armor moves so aggressively that sometimes it feels like it's meant to scare you into playing instinctually, or rolling early, only to punish you by doing some unorthodox movement, or blow some projectile into you. The pilgrim butterflies are also annoying, chipping your health down just enough to functionally make Lloyds useless. Remember that strategy with Yorm? With the heal aid? That sounds like it could be useful, right? Well, no. It would be impossible to pull off a heal aid here. So we do just end up using our Estus to get Lloyds back when we don't really need the heal otherwise. The armor also likes to fake stagger and hit you while you go to punish it. But in all honesty, this isn't my first rodeo, and I'm ready for this. Still able to punish its feigned weakness. Because feigned weakness is still just weakness. The Grand Archives are much similar to Lothric. They're similar enough, in fact, that I'll just put my script back in and it'll fit.
Grand Archives
Is an area, alright. There's an undead bone shard here, but otherwise, it's really just a boring nothing area with a couple rooms to run through. On most runs, there'd at least be something, but here, there's not much. We already have a plus 10 weapon. So, with not much else to do, we unlock the shortcut that gives us quick access to the
Twin Princes.
The Twin Princes were a boss I'd been dreading nearly the whole run. They're quick, don't have huge punish windows, and overall just kinda difficult, you know? Sure, sometimes you're able to dodge attacks if you stand in the right spot, but I've never been good at that. And sometimes it's not just that either. The fight is just hard. It's one of my worst fights personally, and if you die, you have to take the long elevator back if you're smart. Or the hell run through a million guys if you're an idiot. Since Lorien teleports so much, often the camera jolts or just loses lock-on entirely, and that leads to situations where we have to guess when to roll, or in what direction, which can be very hurtful to us. Not health-wise, we'll be fine. I just mean emotionally. Lastly, I hate to admit it, but I suck at this game. I'm so horrible, and I've never even beaten— Oh, we killed him? Oh, okay, never mind. Alright, I normally would talk about us entering the DLC, but at some point, there's not really much to talk about, so I'll just play all of Gale's words at the same time, and then you'll understand him without me needing to say anything. Ready? The painted world of Ariandel doesn't look like much, especially when you see Gale holding it. Really, like that's what I have to save. Well, let's just hope the area breaks those expectations. Let's see. There's this little fake out area. There's a bridge you can break. And under there are annoying archers. An even worse boss. I don't know, man. Maybe we can just do this to get to the next area. Alright, I know I said this boss sucks, but let me explain myself. First and foremost, you might notice that there are 3 additional wolves just here. And while you don't have to kill them, they're basically a requirement, lest you get ganked. That doesn't sound bad. Sure, the wolves are one of the most annoying enemies, but they still have those timings where you can hit them once, and then just repeatedly to kill. Repeat that twice more, and it's just the Gravetender. The Gravetender uses his Valor Heart to block most incoming attacks. You can still chip him through this, but the more important part is the poise damage, which can stagger him, leading to a big hit. If you do take damage, healing is horrible. The Gravetender isn't the most aggressive boss, but the moment you try to heal, he sees that and punishes you swiftly. And guess what we try to do after that? We try to heal, and guess what we try to do after that? And guess what we try to do after that? And guess what we try to do after that? So, the way we should actually try to heal is to use our environment. Usually, that tends to be some large icicle stalagmite, and we can chuck an Estus in the time he has to pathfind. And once we get the Tender down to about half health, his friend comes into the picture. Now, progress on our Tender slows, massively. The Great Wolf often blocks our path to the Tender, if not forcing us to actively focus on it by attacking. And the Gravetender also gains the ability to use ranged spells, which further makes the fight a slog. Thankfully, the Tender is almost dead by now, and we kill the NPC, and have the easiest stagger the boss, and while it's staggered, build up enough poise damage to cause another stagger boss fight ever. So the fight is basically over. The rest of this DLC besides the final boss is boring, with one exception. Wilhelm is a maniac. He uses Black Flame, the weirdest shield in the game. Wait, no, that's my title. Damn! And also, he loves rolling. Light attack, dodge. Heavy attack, dodge. Running attack, dodge. Jumping attack, dodge. Man, like we almost use all our Estus doing this. It's alright. The next bonfire is just up here. And this leads directly to the lever that opens our final boss for this DLC, Friede. Friede, for me, is known as one of the most drawn-out bosses in all of the Souls trilogy. Ancient Dragon? No. Friede's got you beat. I guess she has some, keyword, some actual gameplay, but a lot of the fight is just boring. If we're lucky with her AI, the moment we get a hit in, we can do a pretty long combo, since the hit is fast enough to stagger her, but slow enough that she has the chance to attack twice. As long as she doesn't do a higher poise attack, or jump away, we can get close to 1,000 damage in a single combo. But Friede is really able to dish it back, with combos and deceptive timings that can and will catch us off guard, even having done this fight many times. Actually, Friede starts to work us down enough that we're in danger of dying. But as it turns out, the damage that gets racked up on us can go away just by using an Ember, which will heal us and give us a bit of additional health. The audience knows this, they've played Dark Souls, what are you doing, man? But going into Phase 2, Friede isn't dead either. And it seems she's embered as well in order to live, turning this into a real fight. Phase 2 is more of a slog than anything. It's definitely the most boring phase, and at that, it's a pretty tanky one too. Ariandel moves around way too much, sometimes crushing us, sometimes making us chase him, sometimes chasing us, but overall, he's not the biggest issue. What is an issue is Friede, who constantly shoots frostbite-inducing ground our way, that also explodes given enough time. And when we're trying to hit an already moving target, this is what makes the fight annoying. On top of that, she can also try to heal herself, and while this is slow, it's still just another time waster. To top Phase 2 off, she can also attack normally if she gets close enough, which is completely random and often happens through Father Ariandel, meaning we can barely react and most of the time eat the damage. At the end of the phase, we end up spending half of our 14 orange Estus. But actually, it's not over. Phase 3 is pretty much Phase 1 on steroids. Longer and harder to dodge attacks. AI that moves away more often upon getting hit multiple times. More health. Just the works. And it takes quite a while for anything to happen. When it does, we're usually unhappy with the damage trade. But as it happens, we do barely have more total health than Friede, and the fight ends in our victory without much strategy on our part. The Dreg Heap is the start of our second DLC, and honestly, this area just turns into a bunch of and during the last drop, we're to the Demon Prince. A little secret about most challenge running is that once you get to the second DLC, this is when you'll understand if your build has any viability. Sure, you can fudge your way through the main game with some cheesy strategies or by getting a plus 10 weapon early, and Soul of Cinder will just fall over if you're even okay at the game. There's a reason so many weapons are in this game, of course, and of course, they want to make the non-joke ones be viable. But there comes a point where even the mediocre weapons will fail to most bosses, and only the good ones with a true niche can stand against the greats. So, what's the rating on the Pierce Shield then, I hear you asking? Well, we'll get back to that. For now, the shield actually does good poise damage, while doing not the worst normal damage. We can stagger a demon every so often, just about once or twice a cycle, before they become active or inactive. The demons are one of a few bosses that actually don't take counter damage after you hit a stagger, but regardless, even 1 or 2 free hits help us out a lot. Plus, only having to deal with one demon for a second is always a beneficial break. Managing their health bars is also one of the main parts of this fight, since the order in which you kill them matters a lot for the rest of the fight to come. The demons cycle through being active and inactive at different times, which means both of them can be active sometimes, leading to over-regression, and that makes us not be able to get hits in until one of them goes inactive again. Sometimes, both of them go inactive, which is harder than you might think, because if you get toxicked, the fight might just be over, so you have to watch their poison moves. After a few cycles of this, we finally get the demon in pain to fall over, which just leaves the one from below, who still takes a while due to our bad damage. But once he's down, the fight isn't quite over. Phase 2 starts with the demon from below reviving, and now the Demon Prince has an entirely new moveset that does a lot of damage. And so much health that we cease to do yellow damage, taking us back to Yorm levels of damage. But this isn't some easy fight like Yorm. The Demon Prince is fast, punishing, and has mix-ups that if you're not paying attention, will catch you off guard. Take this as an example. Sometimes the Demon Prince flies up and does something. He can do one of a few things, but there are 3 that look increasingly similar. The first is one where he charges something in his hand and flies up. To dodge the incoming fireball, you have to run in the direction he jumped, in which you won't even have to dodge to avoid it. But if you run into the next attack, you will take damage. This one, he flies up, then instantly flies right back at you, and the only consistent way to avoid this is by flipping around and running back. The third attack is the only one you have to dodge for if you want to punish. In this one, the Demon Prince charges up a bit and jumps back, releasing a wind gust. You can dodge this, but it doesn't do any damage, it just knocks you over. The Demon Prince then gives you quite some time to run over to it as it charges a laser. If you're close to him, the laser will just easily miss you, and with the poise damage of our weapon, we will always land a stagger with an opportunity this free. This seems alright on its own, but it's just one part of a very complex moveset that moves around a lot, and is, well, I mean, I've already told you how tanky he is. Honestly, there's not much more I can really describe to you. We run out of heals, and the lack of an attack boost from Lloyd's does suck, but with how little damage we were already doing, 10% less is just a nuisance, and not a fight decider. What does decide the fight is my final attack. The Ring City is our final destination in this DLC, and such a large majority of it is just running, so we make it to the Bridge Midir really soon. Since Midir is sitting on the bridge here, his moveset is quite limited. A couple Fire Breath attacks, maybe a swipe here or there, who knows. What I do know is that this is boring. It takes quite a while to stagger him, and when we do, we can't even riposte. But even though we can't, we can still knock him down with enough damage. Then, on the way to the real fight, we grab the +3 Chloranthy ring. Then we can do one final whee to Midir. Midir is the second boss in a row that we're not doing visible damage to. Midir is also a boss that doesn't take much damage at all, unless you hit him in the head. The issue with this, other than my range, which I've talked about at length, is how much Midir moves around. He just really loves to breathe fire up in the air, run around the swamp that is down here, and is also just like really annoying and tanky. We can only get about 2 hits into the boss before he's out of range. And this starts the repetitive cycle of this fight, and where Phase 2 tries to break up the monotony, it just adds more to it. And once we stagger Midir, we don't actually do enough damage to kill him. We end up having to deal a little more damage to him, wasting even more of our time, for the end of the most boring fight in the world. Now that Midir is down, we have but one direction to go. Halflight is usually the joke of most challenge runs. Half-baked, some could say, but not here. Here, Halflight is in charge. Try to combo a Painting Guardian? No you don't. In fact, they often combo you into oblivion. Even when you do hit them once, repeated attacks often don't land, and that's just before Halflight comes into the picture, shooting at you and slicing you while you're trying to dispatch the guy who will heal the boss if he gets too low. There is something we can do, even now. If we manage our attacks right, we can actually stunlock the Painting Guardians. It's 1 or 2 light attacks, then a heavy, then repeat. It's a simple combo, but the Painting Guardian's AI doesn't roll unless you triple light attack. Now, this doesn't work for Halflight, who just rolls away after 1 attack. Though once we kill 1 Guardian, we're home free, right? Well, if Halflight doesn't kill you himself, the second Painting Guardian, and running out of heals, probably will. So with some simple bait and punish on Halflight, we're able to kill his Guardians, and our surprisingly difficult boss, to move on. Before we take on Gale, our penultimate boss, we head back to Firelink and level up one last time. And with not much else to level, we level luck. We're gonna need it.